There's no way to make money doing what we do. You have to be in it for the love of the sport. Just for an example, to pay me to build a gasser, you're going to have somewhere around $60,000 to $65,000 in it, and very rarely do we get more than over a couple $100 a piece to put on a show. So there's no money involved here. It's got to be because you love it. To build a gasser, I work by myself. I'm a one-man show. I can do one from start to finish in about roughly 600 to 700 hours, depending on what the customer wants. And the Gene Cromer's car was 640 some hours. Shannon Smith's 55 was 650 something hours. I don't know what I had in my wheelie, so I wasn't charging nobody nothing, so it didn't matter. So I never kept up with it. But it's around 600 to 700 hours. Yeah, I did my car just because I wanted to build a period correct car, and I'm real particular about making a period correct. When our gasser deal started, we made the rules to where anybody else that raced with us is period correct, and that way, because if not, they have a big advantage because we don't run a breakout. We run heads up, first man to finish line, just like it was back in the 60s. So we had to make the rules where everybody's got that. Or therefore my car would be a big disadvantage. So now that I built my car that way, and there's several other builders around doing them. Jeremy Pearson's doing some, Greg Porter's doing them. There's a lot of builders building these cars, but I'm getting a lot of people coming to me to wanting the cars built. Just like this car here for Sonny Clayton. This was an original gasser, drug out of the woods, or actually drug out of a barn. The hardest challenge of building a period correct gasser is finding the correct parts. The wheels are the hardest thing to find. The old wheels, they don't make them anymore. There's some companies that do replicas. They look okay, they're not exactly right. We're letting them in right now because people can't find them. But it has to be a real close replica. And like the ladder bars and stuff, we're making them and making them like they did back in the old day. Fortunately enough, I come along in the point when I started building cars in the later 70s that I got to look at a lot of that stuff. I was cutting it off and throwing it away, but I did get to look at it, so I know how it was built. So it's tough to do. It's a whole lot harder to build one of these period correct cars than it is to build a modern car. We balance being period correct and being safe. We don't get into the safety rules at all. We let the racetracks do that. Our rules are strictly on period correctness. We will let you run a funny car roll cage. We don't like it. It hurts the looks of a car, but if you choose to run a funny car roll cage in your car, you can. But believe me, the fans notice. The fans see that. If you look at my Willys or any of the cars I've built, the front bars that come up by the windshield on the roll cage weren't in the old cars till the later 60s. So I put them real tight to the body, and I paint them the same colors interior where they're not very noticeable, so you don't notice those bars. But seats, we don't allow high back seats because they didn't have high back seats in, but they had a headrest. So everybody buys a low back seat and builds a headrest into the roll cage just like they were in the 60s. Our deal is not about winning and losing. We're trying to give people a trip back into time. Naturally, everybody wants to win. But we're not so much about that. We do run a heads-up format, first man to finish line wins. We don't use scoreboards, we don't show the times because they didn't back then. But we're more about taking the older people that were here in the 60s watching these gassers back into a time tunnel, to taking them a trip back into time. And then we want to show the young people what it was like in the 60s. Try to give them, and I get so aggravated, there's a lot of gasser deals out there that don't enforce period correct rules. The only rules they have is it's got to have an old body, like a 1956 Chevrolet body, but then they have late model suspension, 4 links, whatever wheel you want to run, and they're calling them gassers. Well, that's misleading the young people. The old people are laughing at them, but the young people are being misled because they think that's what a gasser was back in the old days. And they look like slot cars going up and down the track because they have all these late model parts. They're no fun to watch.